The gentle clink of wine glasses, soft jazz humming from ceiling speakers, candlelight glimmering across immaculate plates. It should have been unforgettable. It was my birthday, or so I kept reminding myself as I watched my wife smile down at her phone for the third time in 5 minutes. Too long, too often. Jenna, I said with a chuckle that was more weary than amused, think you can look at me like that just once tonight? She looked up, startled. Sorry, Tyler. It's just my cousin. She's asking if I like the bracelet. A lie I knew was false. Not because I could see her screen, but because she hadn't mentioned her cousin in months. For the past 2 weeks, she'd been sneaking into the hallway late at night to whisper, I'll call you tomorrow. That wasn't family talk. I used to think love disintegrated with shouting and slamming doors, but I've learned it dies much quieter. Through secret smiles sent to someone else, laughs born of another man's words. I'm a software engineer, the type who brings coffee before she wakes and scrapes ice off her windshield before work. We met in college, both broke, both dreaming. She used to kiss me like I was her entire world. Now she flinched when I reached for her. The waiter brought dessert, chocolate lava cake, her favorite. She barely touched it. I've been thinking, I said, watching her absently draw circles with her fork on the tablecloth. Maybe we should take a weekend. Just us, no phones. Her smile was tight. That sounds nice, but I've got some things at work. Maybe next month. Next month. Always next month. I didn't argue, just added her response to the ever-growing list of maybe moments I was stacking inside. But something inside me had already begun to turn. Later that night, when she whispered another hush good night to her cousin and rolled over, I stared at the ceiling and understood she wasn't mine anymore. 3 weeks passed. I played the fool. I made breakfast, kissed her cheek, pretended I didn't notice her vague explanations or the perfume she used to save for our date nights now worn every day. Her laughter had a new lightness, but never with me. One night, while she showered, a message blinked across her iPad. I wasn't snooping. I don't want to be that guy. But when your world starts unraveling, you don't just sit there. You start picking at the threads, desperate to understand. The message preview read, He doesn't know anything. I'll see you Thursday. Same place. No name, just a heart emoji. My chest tightened. I closed the iPad like it had scorched my hand and walked out to the balcony. It was almost 2 a.m. The skyline sparkled with 1,000 city lights. I leaned on the railing and whispered to no one in particular, Why are you doing this to us? The next morning, I pretended like everything was fine, made her eggs, folded her scarf just the way she liked. She smiled and said she was meeting Michelle for lunch. Michelle had moved to Denver months ago. I didn't call her out, not yet. I needed more than suspicions. I needed certainty. And soon I got it. I was working late at the firm when her laptop pinged. She left it behind. A rare mistake. Normally I wouldn't have touched it, but a chat window was still open. Last night was unreal. I can't stop thinking about you. Her reply had been sent just minutes before she fell asleep beside me. Me too. I wish I was in your bed. He's clueless. His name was Caleb. Project manager. Single, suave. The kind of man who probably wore cologne you couldn't buy without a black card. He had her now. Her body. Maybe her heart too. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. My heartbreak was slower, like a fault line cracking under every memory, every kiss, every promise. I printed everything, messages, photos, calendar invites. I backed them up, stored them quietly in a folder labeled Project Revival. I wasn't planning to rage. No public meltdown. No screaming accusations. My revenge would be quiet, clean, permanent. First, I booked a therapist for myself because I realized I didn't want to fix us anymore. I wanted to repair me. The man who tolerated being unloved, who begged for scraps from someone who gave everything to someone else. She still smiled at dinner, still kissed my forehead, still lied through her teeth. But I had changed, not in a way she could see, not yet, but deep within, I was no longer her willing shadow. I started hitting the gym again, not to impress, just to reclaim control. I cut back on drinking, took the promotion I deferred for months. She didn't notice. She was too busy pretending. Late one evening, I came home, and she said, "You're late. Drinks with a client?" I said, loosening my tie, "Big contract closing." "You didn't mention it this morning." I don't mention everything anymore. Flat, not cruel, just a fact. I walked past her, already slipping out of my shoes. She stood there stunned. The man she'd taken for granted wasn't chasing her anymore. I wasn't interested in saving what we had. I was building something else. Something for me. Something she couldn't touch. That night, as she showered, I finalized the Project Revival folder. Every screenshot, every timestamp, every carefully logged lie. I wasn't going to ruin her socially. I was going to unravel the world she'd built. A top deceit. It started with Caleb. He was up for a regional promotion, a big one. As luck would have it, one of the men reviewing his file was someone I closed a software deal with not long ago over dinner and bourbon. I handed him a folder. He's been sleeping with his colleague, my wife, on business trips your company paid for. Thought you should know. No drama. Just facts. By Monday, Caleb was off the promotion list. Within a week, he was reassigned to Cleveland pending an HR investigation. Jenna didn't understand why he ghosted her, but I did. Piece by piece, I reclaimed my life. Sold the house. My name was the only one on the deed. Shut down the joint account. Hired a lawyer known for quiet, decisive work in high-stakes divorces. One Sunday morning, I made her breakfast. Eggs, toast, cinnamon coffee. The works. "Wow," she said, surprised. "This is unexpected." I smiled, thought we could have a calm morning. She nodded, wary. When she reached for another slice of toast, I slid a thick envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "My piece." I said, "And your wake-up call." She opened it, her face draining of color. Inside were the messages, the emails, the photos, a letter from her company's HR board, and at the end, divorce papers. She dropped her fork. "Tyler, what is this? What you've been building for months?" I said quietly, "You just didn't know I was watching." I watched her lip quiver. "You been spying on me?" she asked. "No," I said. "I've been surviving." Tears formed in her eyes. For the first time in ages, she looked genuinely afraid. Not furious, not scheming, just broken. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "But you did." I said, "Again and again, and I let it happen. That part's on me. But staying, that would have been worse." She reached for my hand, but I stood up before she could touch me. "I already forgave you, Jenna," I said quietly. "That's why this ends here. Calm, clean, no chaos. Just two people going their separate ways. One learning what they lost, the other learning what they deserved." I walked out of that kitchen with my head high and heart pounding. She didn't come after me. She just sat there surrounded by documents that spelled out exactly what she'd thrown away. And I walked into a future no longer chained to her deception. The apartment I moved into wasn't glamorous. 2 bedrooms, blank walls, a view of a rust-stained alley, and a flickering neon sign from the diner across the street. But it was mine, and for the first time in nearly 10 years, no corner held the scent of betrayal. At first, the silence was deafening. No footsteps echoing down the hallway. No hushed lies in the dark. No perfume lingering beside my jackets. Just me, my thoughts, the soft clink of ice in a glass, and the sound of traffic murmuring like it didn't care. My marriage had fallen apart, but in that silence, I began piecing myself back together. Not just in daily habits, but in the emotional places I had long neglected. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I was finally ready to understand why I had let myself vanish for so long. Every morning I woke at 6 o'clock, ran for an hour, came home to shower, and stared into the mirror. Some days I just looked, really looked, at the man staring back, the man who once had dreams, who once stood firm in who he was. He was returning, slowly, cautiously, but he was coming back. Jenna, on the other hand, was unraveling. Weeks passed without contact. Then whispers started. An HR investigation at her job digging into her misuse of company funds. Flights to meet Caleb. Dinners listed as client outings. Hours logged for fake meetings. The facade was crumbling. She called me once, block number, midnight. Tyler, she said, her voice ragged like she'd been crying. Please, let me explain. I didn't respond right away, staring at the screen, letting the seconds tick by. I gave you 100 chances to explain, I finally replied. You used every single one to lie better. I didn't love him, she whispered. And you stopped loving me a long time ago. I answered, then hung up. The next morning, my lawyer told me her legal team wanted a mediation meeting, not to fight the divorce. That part was clear. They just wanted leniency when it came to the assets. Jenna assumed that because I hadn't screamed, because I walked away quietly, I wouldn't dig deep. But I had everything. Screenshots, bank transfers, the separate accounts she used to book hotels under her maiden name. The truth was all there. She showed up at mediation in a sleek gray suit, makeup flawless, but her eyes betrayed her. There was fear in them. She didn't speak, just nodded at the arbitrator. I looked at her and said, "This isn't about revenge, it's about closure." My lawyer laid it all out, dates, receipts, messages, cold, clinical, complete. By the end of the meeting, her attorney looked like he might pass out. "I think we need a moment," he said, motioning her into the hallway. Through the glass door, I saw her collapse into a chair, face in her hands, shoulders shaking. It didn't make me feel victorious because revenge, no matter how justified, is always empty. What filled that space was peace. I hadn't shouted. I hadn't exposed her online. I didn't become a victim in search of an audience. I simply let the truth rise and watched her face the weight of it. When it was done, I left that office lighter than I had felt in years. Not happy, not yet, but free. Then something unexpected happened. A tech firm in Chicago, one I'd forgotten I'd submitted code to, reached out. They loved a project I'd worked on months earlier. A leadership role was open, equity included, full relocation. I didn't hesitate. I packed, changed my number, deleted the old photos I clung to like anchors. And on a rainy Saturday, as I locked the door of that old apartment for the last time, I felt something I hadn't expected, gratitude. Not for betrayal, but for surviving it, for being pushed into rediscovering the man I buried beneath silence and sacrifice, the man who remembered his worth. Chicago was different, clean, quiet, in a good way. I worked long hours, ate dinner alone most nights, but didn't feel alone. It was like the new chapter hadn't begun yet, but the old one had finally closed, and that mattered more. Then, just as I stopped checking my phone for her name, Jenna appeared again. It was a Friday. The receptionist knocked on my office door uncertainly. "Mr. Hayes, there's someone here," she said. "It's urgent." Jenna Carter. That name no longer hurt. It felt distant, like a song I'd overplayed and finally outgrown. "Tell her I'm in a meeting," I said. She said she wouldn't leave. I closed my laptop and let the silence settle for 10 minutes. "Let her in," I said. She entered slowly. She looked exhausted, makeup faded, mascara smudged, like she tried to hold herself together and lost battle. "Tyler." Her voice broke. I didn't know where else to go. I leaned back. "Then I guess it's lucky you still remembered." She stepped in, her eyes drifting around the office. "You look different." "I am," I said. She sat gently, like even the furniture might reject her. "I heard about the move, the promotion. I didn't think you'd actually leave." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't think I'd leave after everything?" "I guess part of me thought you still loved me." "I did," I said. "More than you ever understood. But love isn't supposed to feel like disappearing." She looked down, twisting her hands. "I lost everything, Tyler. Caleb cut me off. I was demoted. People don't even look at me the same anymore." I stayed quiet. This wasn't a time for comfort. "I thought you'd destroy me. Post it all, tell the world." "But you didn't. You just left." "I didn't leave to hurt you," I said. "I left to save myself." Tears fell again. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I felt invisible. Caleb made me feel wanted. "No," I said. "He made you feel excited. That's different. People who betray others often confuse excitement for meaning." She seemed stunned, genuinely broken this time. "No games. I don't expect forgiveness, she said softly. I just wanted you to know I lost everything I thought I wanted, and I regret it. I stood, straightening my jacket. I forgave you the day I walked out, I said, because your betrayal wasn't about me. It was about your own wounds, your own emptiness. She stood, too unsure. So this is it? This is peace. I said, not a second chance. Just an end. She hesitated. Is there someone else? I gave a small smile. Not yet, but when she comes, she'll get all of me, the man who knows exactly what he's worth. Jenna's shoulders dropped. I hope she sees it. She will, I said, because I won't let her forget it. She turned to leave. At the door, she glanced back one last time. Goodbye, Tyler. Goodbye, Jenna. That night, I stood on the rooftop, the wind brushing past. The lights of Chicago glowed like new beginnings. I thought about the man I used to be, the one who clung to someone already gone. I wasn't that man anymore, because betrayal didn't destroy me. It revealed me, and as I raised my glass to the sky, I didn't mourn what I had lost. I welcomed everything I was finally ready to claim.